Hello everyone, good day. I'm John Vincent Sotto. So I am the third reporter of Group 4. So my topic is all about factors that tend to decrease diversity. So first, let's have a quick recap for what is biodiversity. So biodiversity refers to the variability of living organisms from all sources into land, marine, and aquatic environments. So basically speaking, biodiversity is the unity and harmony of living species, the different areas and conditions here in the world. So biodiversity is also the diversity amongst ecosystem. Did you know there are certain factors that tend to decrease diversity? Start with first is environmental stress. So in general, as environmental intensity increases dramatically as a result of increased amounts of emissions, for example, the following changes are observed. Mortality or death rates are rising, especially among the most vulnerable species. So, we're fully aware that there are already several identified vulnerable species. So, for example, the polar bear. So, whenever the polar ice caps along the northern and southern region were fully melted, so I guess this vulnerable species would um, will be extinct, and also they will not last any longer. For their characteristic is mainly relying on the cold weather or cold environment that they already have. Whenever that cold environment is gone, so I guess they will not be able to withstand life without it. Next one, extreme environments. So they excel in intense heat niches, ice and salt solutions, as well as acid and alkaline conditions. So there are certain species that uh, can withstand or cannot stand uh, very high temperatures or very cold temperatures. So some may die and some may live. So when it is too hot, it may cause them harm and eventually lead to death. And as well as for the cold. So it is vice versa. One good example of this living organism is the tardigrades. So they are semi-aquatic animals. They live in both aquatic and terrestrial habitats, such as ocean and seas, as well as deserts, trees, and sand dunes. They can be seen all over the globe, from the icy Antarctic glaciers to the active lava fields. They are most often found in moss. So their lifespan lasts for 2 months and 2 years as the longest. Next one, a severe limitation in the supply of essential resource. So these photos represent that whenever people or human beings or even different animals or living species uh, absolutely use the current resources, then it may cause negativity to us. So let's say, for example, if we continuously use our resources and not carefully saving it, may lead to death and cannot withstand without it. So can you see, as you can see in the photo, so the first picture is a dry land, so maybe it is concerned with drought. Second photo is a dead fish, wherein I guess the oxygen level of the ocean is not that sufficient to supply the needed oxygen of certain fishes on the ocean. So some may be dead because they are not uh, or they lack oxygen. And lastly, the third picture is, you can consider it as deforestation. So whenever trees are being cut or being cut down, the oxygen supply will be lessened. So extreme amounts of disturbance. An extreme disturbance occurrence is one in which the measurements and responses of some of the component disturbance forces, their interactions with affected structures, surpass the known spectrum of variance part of those parameters. So We are fully aware that disturbances are already present within us or around us. So, what are these disturbances? These are good examples of those disturbances. First is tsunamis. Second would be tropical cyclones or storm, and third one is volcanic eruptions. So next, recent introduction of exotic species. The reason for this extinction can be due to a variety of factors, including competition for scarce resources, predation by new species, the spread of new diseases, and the harm that introduced species can do to natural plants cultivations and new techniques. So geographic isolation. Population migrating to an island and becoming separated from the mainland population is a fairly common example of geographic isolation. So, ecological isolation is the division of entity classes, the result of changes in either in their ecology or the climate in which they live. So, one good example is the speciation. So, certain animals or species vary with the current environment they are in. So, they have the tendency to sorry they have the tendency to um, evolve and basically they adjust to the certain environment they are in. Threats to biodiversity. First is extinction. Extinction could be considered as the extinction of species is an inevitable occurrence in the natural world. As a result of genetic transition, certain species become extinct and are replaced by others, mostly their own descendants. So here are some examples of extinct animals. Dinosaur, saber-toothed cat, dodo, Tasmanian tiger, golden toad, passenger pigeon, woolly mammoth. So these animals existed very long years ago, and at this very moment they're not already existing. Second one, habitat destruction. So the most serious threat to the extinction of most species, including those found on land, is habitat loss. So, for example, clear cutting of trees and reduction of grasslands to crop fields are two of the most visible examples of habitat loss. So, as you can see, these pictures depict uh, an example of habitat loss. So, yeah, the koala and I guess the deer antelope. So, I'm not sure. Ready to Google. Then, invasive species. Certain areas inadvertently or purposely introduced animals pose a significant threat to natural biodiversity. Invasive species are animals that migrate into foreign territories and are known by a number of names, including endangered, non-native, non-indigenous, unwanted, destructive, or parasites. So, these invasive species are uh, not new to a certain environment until such time they come into it. So, they might cause harm to the, to the species that already existing on the areas they have been to. So, example is the American bullfrog, the Asian longhorned beetle, gypsy moth, grass carp. So, this type of species are the invasive one, and it may cause harm to the lands, waters, and other native species living in that particular area. One next step to the biodiversity is pollution. We have understood for a long time that toxic pollutants can have disastrous consequences for local communities. So for a long time, cognizant species have existed. So next one, population. Human population development poses a number of threats to biodiversity. With more humans, we'll need to harvest more wood, catch more fish, plow more land for crops, dig up more fossil fuels and resources, create more homes, and use more water if our consumption levels remain stable. So, it is not just applicable to us humans, but it is also present among other animals. So, the higher the population, the higher need for certain resources are also evident. So, overharvesting. Overharvesting, also known as overexploitation or overusage of certain resources, is where a natural resource is harvested to the point of diminishing returns. So ecologists use the word to characterize species that are harvested at an unsustainable pace, considering their normal rates of mortality and reproductive capacities. So when you say overharvesting, uh, we are exceeding the limit or the required amount or the standard amount of uh, certain resource that we need. One good example of overharvesting is, yeah, this one. So next one is commercial products and live specimens. So we procure a range of useful commercial items from nature in addition to collecting wild species for food. While most of this is a sustainable crop, certain types of commercial exploitation are extremely harmful and pose a significant danger to rare species. So skinning and um, cutting down horns or ivories. So this type of activity harms the equilibrium of species, of living species. And I guess that's the end of my report. Thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have learned something. Bye bye.